Humble respect to Guru Mahan, Guru Piran Sangran, Guru Piranyo, fellow Jnanis. Today I'm going to continue with, in the last few lectures, I spoke about the benefits of meditation, particularly Mahan's meditation. And I want to be able to, discuss. Most people ask me this question, yes, we practice meditation. Is it and most people practice for relaxation. Yes, that's one thing, but meditation is much more deeper. It is awareness. It changes the way we look at life. There are structural changes that happens in our brain, in our mind, and the way we look at life. And more importantly, I spoke about how meditation over a prolonged period of time has a positive impact on our life, and particularly the kind of, what I call the 10 capitals of life that we generate, the 10 key things that we require or we should have to live an enlightened life. So just to recap, I spoke about Mahan's Kundalini meditation technique, which is the 3 stages of the meditation. Within 21 days, one can master it. The first step is actually to raise the Kundalini awareness, which is to create the mind, a quietude in the mind to feel that life force in us. And this practice enables us to feel that life force. And you practice it for 14 days, and it helps to quieten the mind down, and it awakens part of what we call power centers. And actually, they are important, parts of the brain that has, the elevated vibration that stimulates those parts of the brains that helps over a long period of time, gray matter, and you feel a lot more awareness and, pulsation and the life force because of that neural connectivity. We practice that for 2 weeks intensively, and then in second stage, Swamiji brings it down, teaches how to bring it down through the spinal cord, and the whole spinal cord is charged because a kind of a raised awareness that one gets. And you see that the spinal cord has a lot of neurotransmitters that helps, it fires up, it's stimulated, and you see that you feel a lot more energy flow, and you feel more energetic, more healthier, and other parts of the body, the electrical pulse or the life force, permeates this energy, and you feel, energized. And then the third one is actually the energy is brought up to the top, and there are important endocrinal systems that are, the energy field is elevated, and you see that it releases important hormones that gives us a calm, cool feeling. And in all 3 practices, it stimulates what we call the happy hormones, the hormones that actually make us more peaceful, more calmer, more cooler, more happier. And you get that blissful, connected state. And maybe in the early phase, it is a little bit challenging, but when you persevere, you see that over small micro level changes that happens over time, you actually experience a more profound feeling. That's because there are structural changes that are happening in the brain, and the mind now starts adapting to this. The mind now will have a lot more capacity and capability to expand its horizon, and the intellect becomes more sharper and deeper. So all these helps us in our practice over a long period of time. And this is very important as we age. When we age, things slow down. Our activity slows down, our metabolism slows down, and you see that sometimes many of our hormones starts diminishing, and you see that, the aging process kicks in. But when we practice meditation, the energy fields are more elevated. You see that the aging process is slowed down, and you age gracefully. Your mind is still sharp. You feel more energized. You feel more younger and more youthful. And we see that those who practice meditation have that quality physically they become more healthier. So, and the most important thing is in meditation I spoke about is that spiritual connectedness. You're not distracted by the external stimulation and the external experiences, though they are important, but you're not tormented by it or preoccupied by it. You do your necessary duties, but you're not perturbed by it. So you feel a kind of a spiritual connectedness. I call it the spiritual compass that gives you direction. So even during the most challenging moments, you're not perturbed by this. And I wrote a piece called Character. And I said that character is the kind of decisions, the decisions we take from our experiences during the most difficult moment in our lives. And sometimes people get agitated, and that tells you the kind of character one has. There are times that when you're more calm, cool, collected, you see that that's the character that we get or nurture. So that spiritual compass gives you a bearing. And of course, there are moments in our lives we get deviated or distracted. But like any other compass or any other GPS global positioning system, it'll reroute you back to that direction, the true north, or that direction of that path of sublimity, quietude, and self-realization. So all of us have this spiritual compass that is embedded in us. Some of us know how to use it effectively. Many people have lost it. Many people may have it but don't know how to use it. So these great saints and sages teaches us to first discover our spiritual compass and then show us how to use those spiritual compass effectively to help us navigate through both the sukhas, the good times in our lives where we get so exuberant and distracted, and the dukkha during the most challenging moments of our life. So that swings that we go through in our lives, this compass gives us a direction. Somewhat like, a pilot that is, piloting the aircraft. We may have so much turbulence, so much winds, but the compass tells you, okay, you may be deviating a little bit. This is the direction. Here's how you should get back to your flight path. In that same way, the spiritual connectedness that helps us get that, harness our spiritual compass gives us direction during the good times and the challenging moments. Over time, as we practice this, it becomes a foundation that shapes our lives and our values. I spoke about this. And you see that the spiritual connectedness helps us, be healthy. The brain becomes healthy, the body becomes healthy, and you become energized. When the brain and the body is healthy, we are able to focus. We build a very strong mind. Our mental and emotional states become solid, right? And that gives the foundation for our intellect to go deeper. We're not distracted by, what other people do, or we learn to focus. We learn to intensify our introspection, contemplation, reflection. That helps us to touch the base of that quietude. And that base of the quietude is what, in the last satsang I spoke about, it unlocks the creativity that is from the creator itself. The universe has immense, creativity. That's how we saw from the Big Bang, multitude of universes, including our own lives, were created. So we touch that base of that. Now, what we see here is that, yes, when you start practicing meditation, you see that, you become more, quiet. In the silence, you see that there's an expansion of our mind and deepening of our intellect. We start thinking about things in a more profound way, in a much more deeper way, in a much more, experiential, evidence-based with logic and reasoning. We dismiss dogmatic belief systems. We don't focus too much on secondary information. Yes, if somebody says something, we want to be able to experience this. So this experiential learning becomes the foundation for our own enlightening process. And that's what gives us that creative, suddenly we see that, a spark of, ideas come through because the brain, the mind, the intellect comes together and forms this amazing library of knowledge that is well sorted out. And when we need that information, we're able to access it. Or when there are pieces of information that are stored, the information comes together and interacts and gives us new ideas, new dimensions, new horizon, and new knowledge. And this is really important because you see that Mahans and great saints and sages and are also great thinkers. They make path breaking discoveries, things that are really profound that an ordinary mind misses, a gross mind misses, the subtleties, and the subtleties reveal amazing, discoveries. So this is what I covered in the last satsang. So those who practice meditation, you see that they emanate this quality, creative. But something very interesting happens. The profound knowledge over the many years of practicing Mahan's meditation and observing this as a scientist, I realized something very interesting. That in all of us, we are part of nature, and nature is part of us. And something very interesting is that nature has embedded itself in us. We are all created from the DNA of nature. And nature is infinite varieties, infinite possibilities and potentialities. But because the frequency of human existence is much more smaller than nature itself, it cannot pack everything into that human limited consciousness, if you want to call that. So what nature has done is that nature has not given everyone everything. Nature has given everyone something special. And the people that discover that special thing through this process of introspection, contemplation, reflection, and meditation is like learning to catch that wind that helps you to navigate. Sailboat. You may have a fantastic sailboat, but if you don't know how to use the sail to catch the wind, you'll still go in circles. But if you know how to use the sail and know the direction of the wind, you know how to catch that wind and you sail in the direction you want. So we see that this whole evolution that, the structural changes in our brain, in our body, our mental state, our intellectual state, the creative endeavors through this meditation enables us to understand nature and understand that nature's embedded natural talent in all of us. The problem with many of us is that we are searching somewhere else and we miss that natural talent that nature's embedded in all of us. So I'm going to take you through this journey that over the many years of practicing Mahan's meditation and teachings, I always ask, what's the purpose of my life? And I think at some point when you are a deep meditator, you ask this question, what's the purpose of my life? Why am I here? What am I doing here? Is it by accident or by chance, or is it by design? If it is by design, then who designed it? Who is the designer? And can I get into the head of the designer? If I can get into the head of the designer or the architect, then I will know what is my destiny. So I reflected on this for many, many years, so many questions. And ultimately, it led to one thing. The purpose of life is to live a life of purpose. So what is our purpose? That depends on the things that we have undertaken, the practices, the learnings, and all the experiences that we have brought together in a concentrated way. So this natural talent, so one has to go through this process of that discovering our spiritual compass through either mindfulness or meditation, keeping our body healthy and our brain healthy. How? Nurturing positive and thoughts that are, elevating, inspiring, spending time reading, reflecting, learning, experiencing to harness our intellect and try different things. If somebody has done this way, is there another way? Looking at alternate way of doing things. And that's what creative endeavors are, not following the same old, same old. 99.99% are people who are followers. Only the very, very small group that actually have the courage, the capacity, and the capability to challenge the norm, try different things. And that's what these great, meditators have done. So they are able to discover that natural talent. And that's what it leads to in all of us, a fragment of nature with its infinite possibility. When you channel that illumination, whatever that we do becomes illumined with its infinite possibilities. And I'm going to show you some examples of this. So we see that when you practice meditation, you move from that individual to that indivisible. Individual is that one physical person, but that horizon starts expanding as the material universe in us starts quietening, which is separated, fragmented, all those things starts becoming unified. And you see that you become indivisible, you become one with everything. You feel that amazing affinity to everything around you, within you, through you. And this is something that you see that universal force now engulf our entire experience, entire, both during the waking phase and also in that sleep phase, we're already there. So you see that those who practice meditation over a period of time, they go through something called rumination. They start reflecting quietly in their mind, being in that one state, right? Always spending time in solitude, rumination, introspection, and they get that expanded, they touch that base of that expanded consciousness. What they're touching is actually that the limited state that we have in the material identity slowly starts dissipating, and we feel that connected state, a much more wider, broader, deeper experience. Because the fragments of our body, the fragments of our mind, our intellect, everything comes from the universe itself, that infinite universe. So part of that fragments, small measure of the infinity is also infinity, right? So we see that infinite possibilities in that universe is also embedded in us. The only thing is that most human mind is focused on the material identity that is limited. So when we quieten the material identity, at least the mind is slowly becoming, quiet from that material identity, that realm of infinite identity that embedded in this material limited identity becomes more and more profound. And this is what you see, that when one practices this meditation, you feel that sense of blissfulness, that universal. Swamiji says that the universal peace sanctuary in us. What he means is actually this universal identity that starts taking over, engulfing the mind and the intellect. So the intellect doesn't start, gravitating towards materiality, but towards universality. And this is what leads to, as I said, nature has not given everyone everything, but nature has given everyone something special. So though you are, in that material identity, you realize that this infinite divinity has shaped and formed the body and the mind, yet its infinite possibility is still there. But because the mind is so focused on the limited material identity, the mind also becomes limited. The day the mind slowly, you know, releases that material identity through this meditative process, is what Swamiji showed, the mind starts expanding its horizon. Ultimately, the mind attains that universal identity, as what Swamiji says in Tamil, you know, Yennul nan arindeen. He says, I have discovered that universal identity through this exploration. So when I read his book in the early days of meditation, I have no clue what he was saying. But over the many years, 10, 15 years, perhaps maybe 15 years and above after practicing, that short momentary experience was really blissful. And you remember it, and over time, that remembrance helps you to start expanding. Ultimately, you see that even though you are interacting in the world, you're still feeling that reverberation of that universal identity, that humming divine vibration is continuously in the background. Right? And when that happens, you see that even though things are, around you going haywire, or there's a lot of chaos, that divine vibration, sometimes in the scriptures they call it Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan's Gita, or the resonation or the rhythm, still the mind is anchored on it, yet not perturbed by what's happening around you. So you see that people who practice meditation, no matter how chaotic, how difficult, they're always very quiet, resolute in that rumination state. But sometimes they would not say anything until things settle down. And then when they speak, it becomes very profound. So this is something that I notice among great people, but I also notice over many years of practice that slowly there's a structural change that happens in our own personality. So why is this really important, right? How does it help an ordinary person? We all in this material identity do many things. I started looking at these great saints and sages and scientists and great people. They have this wow mindset. Wow, W-O-W, world-class mindset. The first W is world-class. What does that mean? They stand out against everybody else. They are pace setters. So this wow mindset, the first W is world-class. The O is actually they have an outstanding mind that is not perturbed, and that O actually is that they're able to outreach to others. They're able to getting that knowledge, they're able to pass on to others in a simple way. And the last W is winnable. Whatever they do not only makes them successful, but also helps others to be successful. And this is what that percolation of that, when the mind is anchored onto that universal personality through this meditation, you see that if you are studying science, you become some of the greatest scientists that explore this universe and discover many things before others. So I started, over the period of doing Mahan's meditation, my father, Guru Sankaran, used to say, read the autobiography of great, great people and see what is it that they have done that is had that wow mindset. And if you focus on that wow DNA of this person or this great people will percolate in your mind and become one with your DNA and transforms you. Well, this is when I realized that this introspection, contemplation, reflection, meditation, and this on these great saints and sages makes a structural change. So meditation alone is not enough. That integrating those values are so important. So I happened to be in a university and happened to be reading about great saints and sages. And I always had this aspiration. Swamiji himself told me that, you see, my time, I can come up with all these things, but the future is going to be very scientific. They're going to ask all kinds of reasoning. Say, study science, practice this meditation, explore my philosophy, and you'll be able to bring everything together to discover phenomenal things. And that's what many people did, he said. So, taking the cue from him, I started reading about all these great, great mathematicians, scientists, philosophers, to really understand what was it that made them different from ordinary people. What is the wow quality? If I can pick up one or two wow and introspect on it, perhaps a fragment of that will transform me. So I started reading great works, and I'm fortunate that I was blessed with many of these great books by my father, who was an avid reader. I inherited more than 2,000 over books from him, and I've read most of it. And we're now building a library in the Klang Center, more than 3,000 books, and that is increasing. And those books actually gave us insights into these great people. And when I looked at these scientists, something very interesting that they were doing. They were all in that state of rumination, introspection, contemplation in their own ways. Mahan had his own ways. These great people had their own ways. So the ways may be different, but the path is the same. So what did I discover? So I started reading all these great people, and was inspired by them. And here are a few of them that inspired me and helped me become a scientist myself. And that DNA that they had very similar DNA of Mahans and great saints. And you may recognize some of them. I read all their autobiography, and here are some of them, right? Euler, some of the greatest mathematicians, Gauss, some of you all know Ramanujam, Marie Curie, amazing. She discovered, a lot of the things that, are radioactive. She herself died of cancer by being exposed to it, but yet she charted new frontier. Newton discovered, gravity. Darwin, Galileo, Tesla, Turing. Today, whole of AI would not exist if not for Turing. Terence Tao, another amazing mathematician that solved many problems. Some of you all know Florence Nightingale, right? And Helen Keller. So here are some of the, great, what I call for me, spiritual and intellectual mentors that really helped me refine my spiritual compass, inspired me. And I'm sure, inspired many people. And what was very common is that they all had that rumination, that introspection, contemplation, reflection, and meditation. And to some extent, you see, meditation is not separate from everything else. Meditation has to be integrated in everything that we do. And when we do that, everything becomes meditation. So Ramanujam you probably know him. He's known as the man who knows infinity. So he studied about infinity. So here are some of the people that really did not do frivolous things or not caught up by all this day to day, but they had this amazing focus, like the electron microscope, to find solutions, discover the creator, discover a small part of the universe, the workings of the universe. And then once they discover it, they validate it, and told the world, hey, there is something out here, whether through mathematics or through evolutionary study. Galileo is amazing. He told, you know, if you read his history, he spoke about how, before him, everybody thought that the earth was the center of everything. And the whole church talked about it. But he was also a very religious person, and he realized that no, the earth is not the center of the universe. Everything rotates around the sun, and even the sun is, rotating around something very big. And he developed a telescope. The church was, against him. This is blasphemy. But yet he persevered, and today it's an accepted, we know that the earth is not the center of the universe. So we see that these people really stand out, to not go with the norm. Yes, there are times if it's strong in fundamentals, yes, we accept it, but there are times that we have to think differently. And this is what these great people have done. And I put them here because these are the people that have inspired my own journey. The same thing with great spiritual teachers, reading about great spiritual teachers, social reformers, and how they use this mindset, that introspective mindset, the rumination mindset, to really go deep down, to understand human behavior, to understand the universe that is percolating in all humans, and the different behavior, the variety of behavior and way of life, and how one brings harmony in the way we live. And for me, here are some of the people that I've read extensively. To some extent, I understand them, and you see that they have shaped the way life is about. For me, Mahan led me to many of the other great saints and sages. Adi Shankara is one of the great saints that actually spoke about. He gave one of the best interpretation of the Upanishads, which I cover in some of my classes on Advaita teachings, consistent with Mahan's teachings. The other one is Christ. I mean, he didn't go to university like Mahan, but yet he made a profound impact, on how societies need to break the barriers through love and kindness. Right? The same thing with other great, social reformers, Lao Tzu, Buddha, Mahavira, Confucius, Tirumular. So all these works of these people I've read, and I say, amazing, there's a common element in it, and they all were trying to understand and describe the creator, the creative force, the universal force. And through their introspective mindset, they were able to understand and then illumine the world of how there is a greater cosmos that animates this microcosmos called the body, the mind, and the intellect. And when the mind becomes one with the greater cosmos, the mind also attains infinite possibilities, like all of them. So I gave you two examples of scientists and social reformers and spiritual teachers. The same thing we see with musicians. In that state of amazing focus, they compose beautiful music. Mozart's and the Beethovens and the Chopins, the Kundalini Vaidyanathan and Ravi Shankar's, right? Amazing. The same thing with poetry. You see Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, that Gitanjali that may emerge from the deep meditation, the Jalaluddin Rumis, amazing poetry of the self. Right? So we see that even among chefs, you see some of the best chefs in the world, the kind of precision focus. Today we have a lot of shows, food shows, and how the focus that makes them innovative in the kind of recipes that they come up with. Amazing, right? So we see that teachers, professors, scientists, take whatever professions, right? If you have that, mindset of rumination, introspection, contemplation, reflection, meditation, service mindset, you see that the journey is completely a different journey. You really enjoy the journey. You really have fantastic understanding of what you're trying to discover. You discover the purpose of our own lives. As I said, I started off with what's the purpose of life? The purpose of life is to live a life of purpose. So we see this in the context of this meditation. And no matter where you are in your stages of your life, if you practice this, personally, I think that you will make an improvement. As I said in one of the articles I wrote earlier, we have no control over the beginning of our life here. We didn't choose our parents, nor did we choose where we are born, when we are born. We have no control over that beginning, but we have full control of our beginning now and the journey that we want to chart, and we have full control of how we finish our journey in this mortal world in a spectacular way. So again, to do that, we have to really discover that spiritual compass in us. So I leave you with today a little bit more thinking on what is your natural talent nature has blessed you with. Ask that question. As I said, nature's blessed all of us. Sometimes nature's blessed us with understanding mathematics, abstract things, finance, business. If that's what the focus is, how do I harness it? How do I be the best? How do I acquire that wow quality in whatever I do in life so that, I'm able to create greater value for my life and the people that I come in contact with. And that's what part of the spirituality is that the journey of every moment becomes an illumined moment. So that meditation, that the meditation Mahan taught, as I said, unlocks the 10 capital. This is the 6th capital over time, over the many years of practicing. I say, this is the purpose of my journey here, that, I'm supposed to do this. There are people who are really good in debating, and that's what their journey is, So I ask all of you all to think about this. No matter how old you are, how young you are, what is the natural talent nature has blessed me with, embedded in me? And if you pursue that, you see that you discover nature in its full spectacular form. And that's what my guru, Mahan, has left me with. Says, discover what your potential is. And it's never ended, it's still continuing, right? And I suppose, that discovery will continue until the body drops off. So with that, I challenge all of you all. I encourage all of you all to think in this way so that you see that when you do that, you get less distracted on other things that impact us or distract us. As I said, like a compass, it'll take you back. This is what I need to do. Take us back to the true north. With that, I will stop. Sandosham to all of you.